Is it
Are
recording?
you guys, are you back at the studios yet or no?
So I actually quit I quit the Sirius XM show.
Oh, okay.
So I'm in the space now. Like I just took a company public, in this, in psychedelics.
Okay.
So, it's been a really,
Nice.
yeah, it's been like a really busy time. Does it show recording on your end, by the way? I don't really do this a lot. Like,
Yep. Yeah,
yeah,
you're
we're
good.
recording, right? Um,
Yep. You're recording.
okay.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, I
so
gotcha.
thanks, man. So yeah, it's been a crazy couple of days, and it's been a really crazy few months, meaning because we just listed. Um, and like
Yeah.
I'm so ingrained in this industry, and the truth be told, and I've admitted this before, it's I've really only started learning about this stuff over the last year or two. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
really a newbie, and my whole goal has always been to be like, especially with this drug, with psilocybin, which is like, it's, as you know, and we'll hear from you, Dan, but about it's like egoless and connectivity and like really being there for people. Like for me on now the capital side, I just hope that on the capital market side that everyone can come together, like
Yeah.
pioneers, advocates, knowing like, let's just elevate this sector together and share realness and be genuine, be authentic. And obviously if there's some, you know, you don't want to work the shitty companies, but if there's companies that are trying to elevate this and help with legalization, decriminalization movements, help with product on shelves, and help with clinicals, like that's how I think we all win.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm hopeful, but I'm also like really skeptical. I don't know if skeptical is the right word, but hesitant to believe that all of these cannabis companies that are now switching over to it are in it for the right reasons, especially with some of these big names. But it is what it is. You know, there's always people that, like, I'm sure that there's companies out there that nobody's heard about that are doing it, you know, quietly, you know, and building behind the scenes. And I don't care, like, as long as it helps people, it's just another tool to use. And you know, there's going to be some synthetic routes. There's going to be some full fungal extractions. There's so yeah, it's an exciting time. Obviously, a lot of big dose studies are going on, but then now there's more of the microdose studies, which I think more people are going to be inept to try. And yeah, man, people have just, I mean, you know, I've been like you, like tomorrow. I just told my wife is a year for me since I did my first hero dose. You know,
Dude,
so
that's awesome. Like
yeah,
your anniversary.
yeah, man, and it's like it's an anniversary. It's the beginning of my new life. You know, and people count sobriety. Well, you know, I'll definitely count June 1 as the day that changed everything for me, you know, in that traditional ceremony. You know, changed the self narrative, changed my perspective on the world, helped with my relationships with my kids and my wife, helped me communicate better with people, made me more creative. I'm about to launch my own business here with CBD and medicinal mushroom line. And then on the back end, also researching some formulations with a PhD on the full fungal extraction and psychedelic side. So yeah, man, it's a pretty exciting time, and I think it always leads with you know, this stuff saved my life, and I know that it's helped a lot of people, and it's gonna save a lot of lives. And I mean, with everything going on right now, it's just crazy. This world is just, you know, it feels like it's going to burn down, you know?
Literally, it's the
Yeah.
most, it's it's so frightening to think, for me, what's happening in the world, because especially in America, and you're in America now, right?
Yeah, man. I'm just outside Chicago. So last night was like pretty intense. And then, I mean, you know, we're armed tonight because a bunch of them are in the suburbs now, you know? So it's no joke. Yeah, what's happening. I just don't understand, you know, like, obviously I understand, right? The oppression and the anger and the frustration and what happened was just fucking
Could you,
like one of the most,
oh,
yeah.
I was gonna ask, could you watch the, like, I couldn't watch the George Floyd video.
I watched it, yeah, and
Yeah,
I talked to my wife. I'm like, 9 minutes, man. Like, come on. It was the most traumatizing video I've ever seen. You know, when he's screaming for his mom and just doing anything. He wasn't a threat, you know. And then the way they handled him when they put him on the gurney, like just like a piece of meat, man. It's so I think people are fed up, and you know, I guess it took, and it's not just him, right? It was a bunch of other events, and then it's crazy how this world works, because now COVID basically doesn't exist anymore, and it's just all these riots, and you know, billionaires adding 434 billion to their net worth during COVID. Like, I was being told that's what this is all about, you know, and it's real, you know. The guy in power is just, it's bad, man. It's really bad. So hopefully, you know, with this medicine coming on, and with, you know, like Decriminalize Nature Chicago, and you know, in leading that movement, it's just all about trying to educate people and trying to get them this medicine. With the generational trauma that's been happening in the African American community, hopefully they can tap into it. And it's not like some white boy is going to walk in there and give it to them, you know. We're going to educate their community leaders so that they actually, you know, listen, and then there's an economic play for them as well. And hopefully that starts to change, you know, little by little.
It's, you know, and Dan, we'll go back with you, but I think this ties in with interestingly enough, what I'm doing, and sort of where my pitch came from and how I raised capital. Because I'm not a finance guy, I'm not a Bay Street or Wall Street guy. Like, I was a radio guy who believed in this product the more I learned about it. And we've talked about that in the past. And believe in it, meaning about helping prove out the anxiety, the depression, how it can help with suicide. And your story, which we'll get into, which you've told me in the past, and I'm sure people have heard, is one of the most inspirational stories I've ever heard in my life. I mean, it makes you want to do deeper dives and research. And that's sort of what I used to do as a radio show host. I do these deep dives. And for me, it was like, my story was about passion, really passion and love here, which is how can I raise some money? But I found I found a great way to get into the space, where in the Netherlands, magic truffles are still legal, as you probably know. And no one was really talking about this. And I'm a brand builder. I know what I am. I'm a brand builder. I'm like in people's face, and I sell brands, and I've helped with brand strategy with companies. And I've always sold myself to people. It's probably been annoying for many, but that's what I do. And then I created this Red Light Holland. I went to people. I said, listen, we can set up a cultivation. We can start growing premium grade truffles, and we can get them to smart shops. But the way I want to do it, I don't want to sell them in 30 grams the way you're buying them now in the Netherlands, where tourists go and just get like totally tripped out, so to speak. I wanted to sell it in a microdose, where they have to be in the raw, wet, unprocessed form, but it's like a pack, like a pill. But you would literally just take a piece of the truffle, and
right.
And that's what we've now put into place, while we want to set up, and it's very similar to you. We want to set up build it out so it could hopefully be certified for EU GMP. And then I can sell truffles let the clinicals, and let everyone go and like test the whole. And I don't know what you think about the whole entourage, or that effect, like the natural substance in itself. And again, the entourage effect is the whole fungi. Like, it may be an overused term, but from what I've read and what we've studied, is that people really believe that they all, like, it works in part and parcel with one another, as opposed to removing a synthetic from it. So really, that's our big strategy. And I feel like that was a way for me to get capital to be responsible by, let's get and manufacture, which we're starting soon, a legal microdose. Because I joke, I go, everyone you hear about microdosing, it's illegal. And I want to ask you how you're doing it too, because that's blowing me away. And then this was a way to like help elevate the sector, elevate the truffle people don't even know about, and then get people intrigued by psilocybin, because there's so much depression, and there's so much anxiety, and there's so much sadness. People are going to need help, and I don't want people doing it with big pharma drugs. And that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. I mean, number one, congrats. Like, you carved out like a really nice niche in the space. I go back and forth. I've never tried synthetic psilocybin, so I can't speak to it. The only thing that's helped me is the full fungal extraction, grown by a PhD biochemist and sourced responsibly. And it's, you know, I describe it like this: like I grow hemp too, right? And I'm growing medicinal mushrooms. And so, what would you rather have? Like, would you rather take the vitamin C pill that, you know, comes from Johnson and Johnson, or would you rather eat a whole orange? You know, not we don't know what that whole orange is doing, but I'd rather have the whole orange. And so that's kind of, you know, the way that I describe it. And even with like a CBD isolate, right? Same type of idea. You know, give me as much intact of that full plant as possible, and that's how I process my hemp is solventless. Doesn't touch ethanol, doesn't touch alcohol, and it goes straight into an encapsulation, and it's USDA medicinal mushrooms, and organic. Everything's organic. Everything's grown organic, non-pesticide, GMO free. So it's just really good medicine, man. And that's how I regain my brain health, you know? And so, I mean, I can't speak to this synthetic, but I also know, like, being on the National Board of Decriminalized Nature, working on this regulatory framework and policy behind the scenes, I know that there's going to be a play for people who want this and want to go to a clinic. And man, I say I'm a fungi advocate. I say I'm all these I just want people to heal. I don't care how they do it. And if people are going to turn to a synthetic with a white coat in a clinic, great. It's better than any type of these antidepressants that haven't been studied for over 6 months, and that is one single molecule pulled out of usually a plant. And the only reason they do that is because it's patentable, and then they can make a shit ton of money. So I'm all about, you know, natural, and but I also, man, I'm just about using these tools responsibly, and it's only one tool, right? Like, what you're doing is great, and then what I did, if I didn't change my diet, if I didn't watch my sugar intake, my alcohol intake, if I didn't, you know, if I'm not active, if I'm not doing my morning meditation, if I'm not doing these other things that go along with enhancing this type of medicine, like intermittent fasting as well, you know, I don't know, you know, the results that you're going to see, if you're going to see really big gains. But yeah, it's like, I mean, it's such an exciting time. This is like cannabis, you know, 10, 15 years ago, right?
Without a doubt. And back to, you know, for what we're doing is we obviously want a brand, because if you can grow a brand, and then we see these great work that folks like yourself are doing, you can move a brand into a place. I mean, that's a nice place to be. Oh, I lost your video for 1 sec. There you are.
Yeah.
But you know, at the end of it, it's education and information and people working together, because if we don't all do that, we're not going to be able to get this message across. And but I have to ask, Dan, how do you do this stuff legally in your farm? Like, is it all legal what you're doing?
Yeah. So like when I say medicinal mushrooms, I mean lion's mane, cordyceps. Those are the mushrooms that I'm growing. Legal in states across 50. As long as you're growing, you know, responsible seeds. And again, I work with this PhD biochemist who's a fucking genius, and you know, we partnered up and created this company. And you know, I've got some standalone mushroom products as well, and we believe in a lot of different mushrooms synergistically working together, smaller amounts and not big amounts. And you know, Stamets has a lot of research supporting that, and mushroom references. You can go on there for anybody listening to check out that research. But yeah, we you know, it's a really exciting time to be, you know, it feels like to be at the forefront, even though I'm a little bit late to the CBD game. And again, last year, June 1, man, is like when I went to his farm and I learned about all this stuff, you know, and I started taking it. And then now, like, it was like, I mean, I tracked, right? I tracked my progress with blood work and QEEGs, which are brain scans that measure your brain waves and how your brain is communicating. And before I went on this, it was just, I was suicidal. I had extreme anxiety and depression because I'd spent $200,000 going to the white coat clinics, going to these concussion clinics, these people telling me that they could help me with, you know, the plasticity of my brain and growing new pathways. I mean, you know about psilocybin and all the science, like that's real neurogenesis. That's stimulation of the areas of our brain that have been shut down either from emotional or physical trauma. And so I saw those studies, it kind of convinced me. And yeah, like that week in Colorado, and everything is, or psilocybin was decriminalized then. So I was doing it in, and I wouldn't say a legal setting, but you know, if we got caught, they're not going to put any money towards prosecuting me. So that's kind of, you know, the thinking behind, you know, first decrim and then going to like a statewide ordinance and actually putting pieces of the puzzle in place to, again, you got to make sure that this is responsibly done, because we don't want to fuck it up like the anti-war culture did, right? Dancing naked in the street and stuff. So
If you were a predictor, you know, if you were a betting person and you thought to yourself, okay, when can we see decriminalization movements actually passed in like you know, what, like we saw with cannabis, and the legalization thing is still so peculiar for cannabis in your country. It's still so interesting to me.
yeah,
You know, the fact that you can't even bank right now currently, and hopefully it'll be expedited soon, but
yeah,
it's
still.
actually insane what's going on. And I'm
Yeah.
based in Canada, but
Schedule 1, right? Like,
yeah,
so in America, Schedule 1 means, and marijuana and psilocybin are a Schedule 1 drug, which means they don't have any medicinal value and they're highly addictive. And we know that psilocybin isn't addictive, and we know that both of them have medicinal value. You know, high THC, yes, that can be. Again, it's just a tool. If you use it the right way, it can be great for you, you know, and really anything can be abused, anything, right? So just being mindful of that. But no,
where
Santa
do you think,
Cruz, Santa
Dan, where do you
Cruz
think we'll be?
passed.
Well, sorry to interrupt, but where do you think we'll be in 5 years? Call it. Are people going to take
Um,
psilocybin seriously and wanna push this through? Is there going to be?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, 100%. I mean, the science is too compelling, and that's the exciting thing about this industry, is that it's leading with science. Because something like this, so radical, so radically stigmatized, almost more so than cannabis, that it makes your brain bleed. You know, we all heard those stories growing up. Um, it has to lead with science. You have to lead. And then I didn't even want to lead with my anecdotal story, man. That's why I needed pictures and I needed proof from blood work and QEEGs and stuff, because yeah, you can tell a story and it's great, but then people can dismiss it. But when you show them science, it's really hard to dismiss it, especially if it comes from NYU and Johns Hopkins and the Imperial College of London, right? So where will we be in 5 years? I mean, nobody knows right now, but I'd like to think that you know, there's obviously going to be clinics. There's these compassionate use clinics that are already kind of popping up, and Oregon is somewhat close to you know, creating the framework for that. And I mean, I think that we're going to like see a shit ton of healing and people getting off of SSRIs and using these whether it's natural or full fungal forms of medicines that have little to no side effects, you know, and people will be healing and hopefully expanding their consciousness and being more connected. And I think, you know, touch upon what we're seeing in this world. There's such a disconnect and there's so much trauma and people are so angry. And what psilocybin can do for you, as long with cannabis, is just make you happy, you know.
it
So
really is. So, and you know, this is anecdotal for me. This is personal experience stuff, but it's so wonderful. And and I've talked about this for years and years. If anyone used to listen to me, like, I'm not the biggest cannabis guy. I do like a glass of wine or two, you know, most nights, is the truth. But when it comes to psilocybin and you know, microdosing, I've even microdosed the truffle. It's like the best I've ever been. That's the only way. I just don't know
yeah,
how else to explain it. It was just the best. When I was in the Netherlands in that week. It was just the best I've ever been. You know, and I was away from the kids screaming for a week, so maybe that helped. But
that does help. Yeah, you're not on edge and always worrying about them. But what? So the truffle, if you don't mind me asking, was that? Have you microdosed like you know, different strains of psilocybin as well, or is it just the truffle? And are they different at
It
all?
was the Mexicana strain that I did.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was, you know, I was just taking pieces. That's all I was
Okay.
doing, just because I was there doing business and stuff, but I
Right.
just felt so connected, living in the moment, which I don't do well. I'm a pretty anxious cat, actually.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have my moments where I'm pretty calm and good and focused, but you know, in the whole of it, I'm not.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was, like, it was a consistency that I liked that was there with me. And that was again, it was just like, I felt confident, I felt calm, which rarely kind of happened together for me. If I'm feeling confident, it's like fake confidence. It's not, you know,
Mm.
like I'm kind of, and it just, and then connect it back to there's something about letting go. And this is the thing that obviously I was reading about, but letting go and being true to you. It's so interesting. You don't care about what the judgment is of from other people, but also I didn't care what the judgment was from me, because I can be my hardest critic.
Hmm.
And it was really neat to let go of that
Right.
own, you know. And you know, I've had some stuff in my day, nothing like you've disclosed is the truth, but it was nice for me not to beat
Yeah,
myself
but
up over
there's
shit too. You know what I
human
mean?
issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, human issues, and I think we're all hard on ourselves, right? We all have that internal voice that usually, for me, it was super negative, super negative, and always calling myself a loser and hypercritical, and that's just the life I grew up in, you know. And to your point, I think the reason you felt so good and the reason people feel so good when they take this medicine is because it helps them stay in the moment, so they feel more connected to themselves. Like, that's number one that you have to do. You have to create this relationship with yourself, so you're able to recognize signs and symptoms of when you're kind of going off the rail, and then come back. And then if you're more connected to yourself, you're more loving to yourself, then you can love other people. And that was a huge shift in me a year ago. And it didn't happen right away. I took this hero dose, and then it was 3 months in. I remember, I'll never forget this. I drove up to my plants in a golf cart. I planted 750 plants for the first time. No idea what I was doing, but I'm coachable, and I listened, and it was going really well. And they were like 2 or 3 feet high. And I'm like, this voice said, "Oh man, good job." I'm like, what the fuck was that? Who was that? You know, I've never said that to myself,
Huh.
you know, and I
Not
just
even
never
after two Stanley
allowed
Cups. Not
myself
even
to
after.
just,
Sorry, not even after two
no,
Stanley
no, man.
Cups.
After the 2 cups, it's like, no, it was always like, oh, you only played 4 playoff games. You're a loser. Like, you weren't really a part of it, you know? But like, I can look back on it now, and I can see me just like being in that room and playing the playlist and being one of 25 guys in the world that won. You're damn right I was a part of it, right? So it's like, it allows you to zoom out and be the observer, and then start reconciling some of these things that have happened in this hockey world to me, and really start reconciling, like, just making sure that I don't pass my shit on to my kids. That was my number one thing. It's like, I got to get healthy, because my kids are seeing me in a really bad way, and I just don't want them to think that that's how they need to move through life, you know. And so now I've got like this second chance, and it's amazing, man. It really is. It's a breath of fresh air.
Dan, you've been very outspoken about your disdain with the NHL to not take what this repeated head punishment in the league, and what it still, you know, really does promote. I mean, there's no hockey now, but it'll be back.
Yeah.
And I mean, is there any way that you can get through to them without necessarily, like, is there any way you can get them to listen, and then listen about what some of the things that you've done to help others, and actually be involved in that?
No, I don't want to be involved in that, you know? So, like, here's my thing. And a lot of people think that I want to go back to it, right? And they think that I want them to, like, listen to me. Who the fuck am I? They won't even listen to Eric Lindros, okay? All right? So when you see that, they won't listen to Akeem Alou. They won't listen to Evander Kane with this racism. They won't make these changes. They refuse to. And I saw that a long time ago. And so I just tell it like it is, and I tell the truth. And honestly, since finding psilocybin and kind of moving away from like the repetitive, everybody knows that hits to the head are bad and that the league is lying to them. And so now what I do is I just leave them alone, and I worry about litigation. There's a lot of litigation coming. That is how we're going to change things. When they hurt enough, when they lose multi-million dollars to some of these cases, that's when they're going to change, and they'll be forced to change. And they won't change until that happens, because if they do, it'll be an admission of guilt, right? So, hey, baby, my little one's here.
Awesome. Mine just went to bed. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Hi.
Say hi. Say hi.
What's her name?
It's Scarlett. Scarlett.
Dude,
It's my youngest.
Dan, my daughter's name is Scarlett.
Nice.
Great.
2 T's.
She's 8 months old. How old's yours?
She's a year and a half.
That's great. That just gave me some weird chills, man. That's crazy.
She's the best. Yeah, it's a God wink. I call those God winks. That means that we're in the right place at the right time right now, talking to each other, you know? But yeah, no, it's, that's not my mission at all, right? And people get it, like, you know, a little confused. And some people, actually, it's so funny we're having this conversation. A guy that we were sitting by the fire last night, and he's like, and he plays in the league, and he came over and he's like, do you want to burn everything down? And I was like, I don't know, maybe, you know, and maybe it takes that. Maybe it takes that. Maybe I have to burn things down so then the next generation doesn't get hurt like we've been. And numerous guys have passed away. And then there's new leadership that comes in, you know, and they have to do it the right way, man, because, like, for example, of Steve Monador's case, he had 19 concussions. He got cleared for his 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th concussion in 12 weeks with the Blackhawks. And they know this because they share medical records. There's no way they're going to win that case. And so if we could get like a $50 or $100 million settlement, then what can happen is they're going to be like, whoa, we need to change. We really need to change, you know, because we can't afford that. The league can't afford that. There's tons of escrow, and especially with what's just happened with COVID. And so, you know, it's, but I don't put my energy there anymore because lawyers are working on that. Okay. And then I'm just a critical witness, you know, but, you know, stuff that makes me upset is when, you know, you admit to something online and then people just attack you and throw stuff out and try to defame you in an effort, and really because they work for the league, you know, and they're getting fed this information. And but it's going to be a journey, you know. That's another like 2 or 3 year journey. This stuff is a little bit down the road, you know.
Are you, because you're coping so well and you've changed your life since that hero dose a year, like, it's unreal. That's the other thing that's unreal, I think. Thank you for giving, like, because this will be out tomorrow on the year, like, it's all these you're
yeah, it's kind of cool. Yeah, and I'm planting tomorrow all, like, well, hopefully at least half of my hemp, at least around 2,000 females. So yeah, it's a cool date. Yeah,
it's
for
a great
sure.
day. But
yeah,
does it cause anxiety is what I'm getting at, that you're voicing these opinions, these strong opinions that you're going against? I remember watching the movie, even the Will Smith movie, you know, when they dealt with CTE, and I'll never forget the line in the promo anyway, which was like, how can you win against an organization that wins a day of the week?
yeah.
And
again, it's like, I don't know. I don't think I'm trying to win anything, right? Like, literally, man, I'm just giving parents and current players the information that the league refuses to give them, you know? And it's that simple. It's that cut and dry. I'm not out for anything, really. I mean, like, you know, and even on like the mental health side, you know, it's just, I just tell my story. I'm a guy. I don't wear malabeads. I don't call myself a biohacker. I don't call myself an energy worker or a healer. I'm just a guy who tells his story. I've dealt with a lot of trauma, and I've gotten on the other side of it. And I think that my story can help. And that's it. And if you're searching for that, then people will find me, you know. But I'm going to keep telling it because it is therapeutic. You know, it's really therapeutic to just tell the truth all the time.
It's amazing to talk your way through life being honest. It really is. It's cathartic for sure. And more people should do it. Do you, and I won't dwell on the NHL stuff, man. I really won't. But do you have good like, do you have good memories from there? Good time? Like, I mean, like
Of
even the
course I
party
do.
stuff and like, was it, I imagine like, you're fucking rock stars, right? Like I'm a Canadian kid and,
Yeah.
couldn't even make my high school team, but, um, and I thought I was good too, which was hilarious. But I mean, like, you think you
Yeah.
always live vicariously through some of your heroes, and you were a big, you're a big personality. I mean, you're a very
Yeah.
memorable guy for what you did in that league. Was there some moments of like, wow, that's the fucking best?
Yeah, man. There was definitely moments where, in my career, it's a great, I mean, I say it's a great life. It's tough, like, I go back and forth with it. I had a lot of fun, obviously. It was, but like to a detriment to myself and the relationships around me. I still have a lot of my friends. I wouldn't have met my wife. I wouldn't have 3 beautiful kids. I wouldn't have the platform I had, even though I earned that. The NHL didn't give that to me. I fucking earned it. And so, you know, yes, like I have to be grateful for the fucking sexual abuse that I endured, for the physical abuse that I endured as a minor. I have to be grateful for everything, for the TBI stuff. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I don't know if I'm going to have a neurodegenerative disease or not. But what I do know is, like, I'm going to do everything in my power to take medicine that where I'm not, I'm staving it off. It's preventative, and that's where like lion's mane comes in, and psilocybin and all this other medication that is freely available, that isn't a Schedule 1. If you can do the research, you can be proactive. And then it goes back to alcohol intake, watch your sugars, intermittent fasting, and so, I mean, it's a crazy life that I've lived, and I feel like this is take 2, and I wouldn't have take 2, and I wouldn't be able to speak like this if I didn't go through all that stuff.
Is
So
that
I
why you're
am grateful
grateful?
for it.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
it's because
Yeah.
it's so interesting. I'm having even trouble grasping, digesting that, how you could say that, but I guess what
And
you're saying is you wouldn't be who you are today, and you must feel, and rightly so, and I hope this isn't like I hope you're not humbled by this, because your message is so, it honestly, it is so powerful, because you help. I've lived a pretty privileged life, man. I've honestly had a lot of good luck on my side. I don't know why. I married up and just also, so like a lot of things, and my kids are healthy, and I
yeah,
can weather the COVID storm financially, little things, honestly, like all these things that,
good.
I think of the 33-year-old auto mechanic, like what's he going through right now? He wants to get back to work and provide for his kids. And so,
Yeah.
I think I always try to put my mind in the perspective of others who are really having difficulty right now. And I think how lucky and grateful I am, but to hear you say grateful and have some of this terrible stuff, it's made you who you are today, which is making, like, you're making a difference. You're inspiring people. Do you hear from people? Do they reach out and thank you?
Yeah, man. Yeah, a lot of people do. And I do a lot of things behind the scenes. Like, one of my mottos is, help somebody without being found out. You don't need to always screenshot the messages. You don't need to do that shit. And you just help. You just move through. And yeah, man, there's hundreds of messages, and sometimes when I'm down, I'll go look at them just to try to remind myself, because you play tricks on yourself, right? Sometimes, and life still happens. There's stressors and stuff, but I mean, can I say that I cured my anxiety and depression? Yeah, I mean, I think I did, and I think if I keep moving down this path, I know I'm just going to keep getting stronger. And there's this saying of, Mike Hart used on my podcast, of post-traumatic growth. There's been a lot of like post-traumatic stress, but now it's just all growth, and there's been so much damage that I think if I keep on this path, I'm just going to keep feeling better and better, and creating these new pathways, and being more creative, and meeting people like you, and talking to people like you, and other interesting people, and then hopefully continuing to help people, with this story. And then alternative medicines, and it's not alternative medicines, it's original medicine, because it dates back to indigenous tribes. And you hear people all the time talk about this psilocybin as a technology. The reason they say it's a technology is because indigenous tribes have used it in certain settings with drumming and with chanting, and they've dialed it in. and it is a technology, so, and it can be used for some really amazing things, and you can turn your life around with it.
You mentioned how you turned your life around, the hero dose, a year to the day. Can you take us through, if you don't mind? I don't want to rehash anything bad, but what you were going through, and then that sort of almost, I think, instant kind of difference. What was enlightening experience and eye opening for you?
Yeah. So, I was 4 years into this brain research journey and trying to regain my brain health, going to a bunch of concussion clinics, $200,000 down the drain. And then what happened was, in like kind of mid-May, I took another QEEG at one of these clinics, and it was all red. And so nothing had changed. And then I did some blood work, and that was way off, and nothing had changed. And they kept telling me the same stuff, do the same things, and you're going to get better. I couldn't keep going 5 days a week. I couldn't keep spending that money. And so that really spiraled some of my symptoms, like anxiety and depression, ultimately into suicidal ideation. And for 15 days, I was suicidal, and I was thinking about having these really cryptic thoughts about killing myself, because when the hopelessness creeps in, you think you're a burden to your family again, right? Like, I honestly thought, like, man, my wife hates me, my in-laws hate me, like, everybody thinks I'm crazy, my wife's friends, and maybe I'm just better off not being here, especially if I can't get better. And I've tried Mox acupuncture, self-deprivation tanks, like functional neurology, changing my diet, a ton of stuff, and luckily I had this trip plan, and I was going to a farm to learn about CBD genetics. And what happened there was it kind of got sprung on me, and I was like, well, at that point I didn't know any of the science, right? And I was just like, okay, well, yeah, I've done this at a kegger every summer, yeah, sure, let's do it. And they're like, it's a little bit different. And and for 90 minutes it showed you, like, this medicine has the innate ability to show you everything that is wrong, right? And really just boom, it's right there. Can't move from it. And so you have to work through it. But what happens is you work through it, right, with somebody there who's a guide, who's experienced. And I set a set intention of why I was doing this, right? I wanted to
Purpose. That's so important.
Purpose. Yeah. Purpose. And my purpose, I was so lost because I just walked away from a really great job at the Blackhawks practice facility. I owned a gym, and I did that because I just learned too much about Steve Monador and all this brain trauma. And I was just like, you know what? I can't even look some of these people in the face. So I had to
hypocritical for you.
Yeah. And so my moral compass just wouldn't allow me. And so I walked away from that. And then, but I was still sick and I was still hurting. And someone's trying to get in
no worries.
One of my kids. And so, what's up, baby? What are you doing? Yeah, drink. Yeah, so I went to this farm. I was in a bad way, and it just I woke up the next day. I remember waking up, and I felt different, and during those first 90 minutes, it just showed me, like, I was searching for a new purpose because I just basically threw my whole life away, right? I mean, I had a comfortable life, dude. I was making $200,000 signing autographs, bringing my old Stanley Cup rings there and like showing people. Like, man, if I was still doing that, I'd probably still be, some type of just miserable addict, because it just wasn't me. And I it's cool that I did that, but I don't feel the need to like to rest my laurels on that for the rest of my life. And so
there's more to you than showing off your old rings, like, and that's not part of this second stage of life for you. That's not meant
I wanted to reinvent myself.
Yes.
And then this medicine, you take this medicine and it gives you a chance to do that.
Sorry to interrupt. What did you take
different.
What did you take that night? Just to
5 grams.
Context. 5 grams.
Yeah, 5 grams. Yeah. And then it's funny because I was searching. needed a new purpose, and I was stuck in a loop because I was on a farm that I didn't really know, right? I didn't know too many people there, and I was lost. And this medicine was showing me, man, like that you are lost. And then there was this hand of this guide who was on my shoulder, and it felt really, really warm and just like kind of guiding me and grounding. And then I finally accepted. I surrendered. I was a big control guy, need to control everything. And that's really stressful in itself. And then I woke up the next day, and then I started popping seeds and stuff, learning how to germinate and the whole process. And I just felt, I don't know, different. I felt good. I felt like something had happened. I didn't exactly know what. I didn't have to pinpoint what it was. And then I came home, and I actually wanted to talk to my wife. I wanted to communicate. I wanted to be around my kids and all the loud noises. And like, I started seeing them in a different light.
Dude,
and
it's
then,
like they're always on mushrooms, by the way. Like when you see
yeah, man, they're so placid and creative. And
yeah.
I remember coming home and seeing them and playing with them, and then crying because I was like, man, I just lost like 3.5 years of my son's life, and like 6 months of my daughter's life. And because I was so sick and in my own head. And, but now, you get that time back now, and there's always time to reconnect, and it just changed everything. And then I started farming, and it's super stressful. I started doing these things that were, out of the norm for me, because I didn't like the unknown. I like to control, but I was still doing them. And it was like, and I was just operating. So what I tell people is, as you know, it's in the intuition, in the present moment. Then anxiety, which is usually in the future. You're too far in the future thinking about things that can go
ahead
bad.
of yourself. Yes.
Yeah, it was gone. And then depression was in the past, like thinking about all that past trauma. And that was all gone. I was in the present moment. So those things dissipated, and then I continued to microdose, and I took, I take 3 pills of CBD with 6 medicinal mushroom blend, which is the lion's mane, the reishi, the cordyceps. And then I tested 6 months later to confirm how I felt, and everything was better, and I'm going to take my blood work.
Scientifically, things were better. And that
clear.
was and really that was the big change in your life.
Yeah, if people go on my Instagram, they can see I've posted it a couple of times, my EEG, from when I started to before the trip to 6 months. And then I'll post another one here once the clinic opens and I can actually do one. Yeah, man, like that's like a visual that you can see red brain everywhere, totally clear, no abnormalities. And I didn't do no functional neurology. I didn't do any eye tests. I didn't do any of that shit that these people were telling me to do. I turned to medicine, and this medicine stimulated the regions of my brain that are shut down due to trauma, and helped recover not only my brain health, but my quality of life.
That is the most, and listen, I'm not new to this story. So, for me, it's like, I already know it, but it's still so remarkable always hearing about this. And this is what we want science to prove out on a bigger level. Like we want, we're seeing some of these FDA, studies now going through, and we're seeing some great research. And I'm so excited for these stories of personal use and anecdotal use, coupled with now, money coming in to go, like, there's gotta be change. Let's like that. We know from big pharma to what's going on with human beings. And and with sports leagues, except there has to be change. We have to take care of people better, and we have to take care of people's heads better, and we have to take care of people's day-to-day better. And there's just and we have to do it in a way, like, I'm still a capitalist. I don't want to lie. Like, I want to make money. I do. I know.
You have to feed your family for sure.
I want them to have the life. Listen, I was lucky. I was lower to middle class, but we never, we're not, I'm a flip flop, ball cap wearing guy. I want my kids to always grow up like that. But, I want them to have security. But what I want is them to have safety, more importantly, because money can't buy, it's true. It's the oldest expression in the book. It doesn't buy you happiness. But what money can do, hopefully, is elevate and take these stories, what you're telling, prove them out on way bigger levels. Is that like, do you hope that happens as well? Like that, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? That, and I keep going back to the advocates, the pioneers, and everybody. Well, I think what I'm trying to say, and maybe I'm lost for words, but I want everyone to work together, because that's the point of this drug.
It's connectiveness, you know.
Yes.
It's like, well, like, you think Kevin O'Leary has taken it with Mind Med, you know, like,
it's interesting.
So
yeah,
this is because, man, I have 10 decks in my email that all these companies want me to come on board, right? And the first question I asked was, well, how often do you work with the medicine? You know, because then, you know, it's like kind of like a little buffer, you know. It's a it just, and it's, you know, because I'm on the decrim nature side, I'm like really hesitant to like do anything yet on the business side. But like, between me and you, the formulation that I've been on, it's getting studied, you know, and you know, and you know, that's like, it's still a ways down the road. But I think, like, the reason I care so much about decrim with regulatory framework policy, as soon as you decrim, you can grow as much as you want, gift it or gather it, and then gift it. You know? So, and that's like, and the education and the awareness, that's like the special sauce of how you get this medicine into other communities that have been traumatized.
But I, you know,
and hold on, I've got like 10 seconds on my, or 10 seconds, 10%.
We gotta run.
No, maybe no. I'm gonna go plug my I'm gonna go plug this into my truck, so I'm just gonna walk with you.
Okay, that's cool. I want to get a better lighting in my area, so I'm gonna walk too. I've been like pissed off by lighting the whole time. Trying to figure good lighting here.
You got good lighting.
Is it good lighting?
I like that mic.
Yeah, you know what? These mics are awesome, dude. You $300, I think, and they give you like audio quality, and it plugs USB right in the computer. It's so crazy what tech's done.
What kind is it?
It's called a Rodecaster.
The Rodecaster,
yeah, RODE, and it goes with my decorum too.
Everybody leave?
No. Leave.
Oh, okay.
Dan, how big?
Perfect timing, because I gotta. It's 15 acres.
That's
I can move my truck, baby.
And your kids are how old again?
This is Layla. Say hi.
Hi.
Who is that?
What's up, dude?
Todd.
How old are you, man?
Drive safe. How old are you, Wolfie?
5.
Oh man, I gotta. Dan, it's crazy. Other than I was gonna say, other than me not having any athletic ability whatsoever, I got my boy's 5 in a couple of months, and my daughter, the same name, Scarlett, it's about 8 months. But like this, I got to tell you, because you said it earlier, and it made me emotional. When you connect with
look out, baby.
When you connect with your kids better, like, to me, there's no greater asset in this world. Like, and I'm not always the best at doing that, and especially when I'm busy and stressed and all over the place. But I can tell you that that to me is so wrong with this world. And I think so much of what's wrong with this world is parents not connecting with their kids as well. And I think that is also something that within future generations of maybe drugs like this, allowing that for parents to connect with their kids, that you're going to see even just better raised children because of the relationships they have with their parents, and that will help the world too. And I don't want to say that every kid that doesn't connect with their parents turns out to be a shit disturber, but I do think with good parents and good sounding boards and laughs and living in the moment and being there for them, I gotta think that will help future generations. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, man, like, it's definitely made me a better parent, like 100%, and it's made me more patient, more understanding. It's made me more playful. I mean, it's literally changed everything. And then again, to that observer, if you're in the moment, you can see, like, man, kids, it is not easy being a parent, right? I have 3 under the age of 5. And man, these kids are like a mirror, you know, into your soul. And sometimes my son will do things that I used to do where and it triggers me, you know,
Yeah.
because of
Wow.
my old behavior. And so like I have to then, you know, he's not a bad kid. It's just that's on me, you know, and I showed him that. And so what I have to do is like basically talk to myself and say, no, man, like, you know, this is like it's another test, you know. And so what are you going to do? Are you going to react emotionally like I used to do as car bomb, or are you going to take a breath and just and gear down and talk to him, right? And not do this stuff that like this hockey community does, where it's like just these traumatized coaches just yelling, sorry about the beeping,
Oh, no worries.
yelling about you know, yelling at like 5 or 6 year olds because they were traumatized and that's how they learn, so they don't want to learn a new way, and that's just the way it is, you know. And that's what we need to move away from. And that's why, like, I really do love, I say love, like I really am fortunate that all that trauma happened to me, because I'm not going to pass that on to my kids, man, you know. And my kids have a better shot now of growing up and hopefully having less addiction issues and less relationship issues and more connected, more sensitive, and just overall better people, you know.
Yeah, I do know, and listen, I'm guilty at, especially my boy, at like kind of snapping and yelling, like, what the, you know, like, what are you doing, you know, like,
Yeah, and I'm not
yeah,
perfect for
no,
sure. It still happens,
but I
right? None of us are
watch,
perfect.
yeah, but you know, I watch my wife actually be this sort of calmer way of dealing with him, and what's wild is, and I think this is important for parents because it's something I'm learning, and it's taken me a few years to learn this as a parent, but it's unreal how smart they are. Like it's
Yeah.
almost as if when we were kids, like they didn't give you credit for being smart or understanding or figuring things out. Of course, your emotions, you know, can change at any given moment because you're young. You need some guidance with that. But it's wild that when you sit and actually have the patience to be rational with them, how they pick up on that,
They
and
understand
they
from a
understand it.
young age, man. Yeah. They're
And
sponges, right?
oh,
Like it's crazy, man. It's
you know,
crazy.
I got to, you know, and I don't want to make this like a political, you know, show or podcast necessarily, but you know, it was so interesting. I got so emotional this morning. My kid was wrestling with me, and he threw like this beanbag chair over me, and I pretended that, like, you know, I couldn't get out of it. Obviously I could just, you know, pick him up, you know, and but within literally 15 seconds, he says, because I was simply quiet, and he goes, "Daddy, okay? Can you breathe?" And when he asked me
Mm,
that question, it made me think of this terribleness that's going on in the world right now. And it was like, that's like, I don't know. I don't, you know, I don't know. I hope it doesn't offend anyone that I'm relating this to what happened with George Floyd. But, you know, the fact that you can have a 4-year-old who's conscious enough to ask you when he doesn't sort of, you don't respond in even 15 seconds to say, "Can you breathe?" It made me think how much grosser. It's already the grossest thing in the world, but it's even grosser that I had a 4-year-old be conscious of it and not this pig-headed piece of shit, not, you know, like, of over 9 minutes.
yeah.
And you know, you start to think about, you know, not to try to tie everything back into psilocybin and trying to make a difference in this world, but like, man, if you can get people in touch with themselves and in touch with their trauma, because obviously that cop had some trauma in his life to think that way. um it
Yeah.
it'll just, you know, I hope, I'm not trying to segue everything on purpose here, but it was just a thought that popped in my head. But man, it will help. If it helps individually within, then it's going to help your reactions without, and that's what I'm so hoping we can prove out.
Yeah. And you know, like what happened there is it's systemic, right? And it goes back hundreds of years of this oppression. And what you're seeing right now is just people are so fed up, you know. and and that community, the African American community is fed up. And it's unfortunate to see the violence,
Yeah.
because, you know, like MLK said, you don't fight hate with hate, you know. But it's so, I understand, you know, or I think I understand. But like just looking at the past 2 weeks here in America with what's happened, it's, I mean, it's unfathomable, you know. And then you have this person who's supposed to be in a position of leadership who doesn't lead, you know, and doesn't guide this nation, and really it almost stokes the fire, you know, rather than trying to put it out. And then you get what we have here in Chicago with the National Guard and Humvees in
Jeez.
the loop, and every single store smashed in, and last night was crazy, you know. And then now they're, you know, again, they're in the suburbs. And so what you have to do is, you know, what I believe is, like, I feel comfortable enough to know that they're after, you know, they're after, you know, it sucks to say, they're after law enforcement, and they're after these big corporations, you know. They're just everybody's fed up. And so, to your point, can psilocybin help? I mean, absolutely. Should it be a prerequisite if you're going to get into politics? Maybe, you know. But another thing, like Robin Williams said, is like these politicians should wear who they accept money from on their suits, you know,
Mhm.
and so everybody knows, you know.
Yep.
It's
Like a NASCAR driver,
and
right?
yeah, it's you know, like what's happening is all of this stuff has been going on for hundreds of years. We're just seeing it now because of social media, and people are more educated, and they're just not going to stand for it, you know. And I mean, you know, how do billionaires add 434 billion to their net worth during a global pandemic? How does that happen?
Yeah. I
You
didn't
know,
know that number.
it's crazy, man. Yeah,
And I've
it's
been,
nuts. This it's nuts, man.
it's nuts. Well, the you know, you said Robin Williams, and sort of another comedian popped in my head when you said his name, and I thought of Chris Rock and an old joke he had, which was, you know, the excuse that yeah, you know, it's just a bad apple. I won't try to do the joke exactly. I'll paraphrase it, but you know, that you know, there's a bad apple on the force. Like, you know, there's just a couple of bad apples that do that stuff. And his joke was like, you don't say that in other industries. You don't just say that on America Airlines there was a bad apple. Like, you know, we had one bad pilot. He flew
He's
through a
my
mountain. You
mom's car.
know,
Yeah,
you can't have
yeah.
any. You can't have any bad apples. Let's, you know,
No,
it's
it goes back to, though, to like, I mean, why I love that medicine is because we're all responsible, and we're responsible for our own actions, you know. And what that medicine can do is just put you more in touch with yourself and make you realize how your actions, there's consequences for every single action, you know, that you. And it just seems like here in this country that I live in now, um you know, people just act without thinking, you know. And
selfishly.
it's
They're
not.
very selfish.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, it's very. Yeah, it is what it is, I guess, you know. That's like the world that we've created. And so, but hopefully it seems like there's like this, I don't know, man. Like I don't want to call it like a great divide, or like some type of like chink in the armor right now, but you can feel it, man. It's like palpable. Like there's so many people that are upset rather than people that are happy, you know. And
You know,
so
Dan,
I don't know what's gonna happen moving forward, but
uh, about a year
you know.
ago, I moved from a house in Toronto into a condo, and I'm not there now. I'm in the country now, but I did that because I said, you know, I envision this stuff. I told my wife, I go, like, I'd rather be high up and kind of away. And like, I even envision at some point condo stuff and having like almost arm, you know, you have like you get your, what are they called? Your security, or not security, like the concierge and stuff, but
Right.
like actual like armed security, because I sense that like there's gotta be, this divide is too terrible right now, and it is not fair. And you know, the capitalist in me says you can work hard to attain things. You can work very, very hard if you do focus, have a plan. and work hard. And some cards are dealt better than others. And sometimes luck or timing helps people when maybe it didn't help you. But, hard work is part of the answer, but it's not the only answer, obviously. And um,
No, especially not for those communities,
yeah,
especially not
without a
for the
doubt.
African American community and Hispanics. Traditionally, as far as marijuana goes, and how many people are incarcerated for nonviolent crimes, and then the mushrooms that have been, these psychedelics that have been demonized, and people are in jail for that. Like the whole war on drugs, I laugh about it, right? Because with decriminalized nature, I've been able to delve into it. And the Nixon administration, they didn't need science when they criminalized all of these drugs, right? When they created this war on drugs. But we have to show hundreds and hundreds of studies to get them decriminalized,
Insane.
And
Insane.
yeah, but it was a tool. It was a tool to keep certain communities oppressed and keep them where they grew up, and make it so much harder for them. And that's where the white privilege thing comes in, right? When you get pulled over by a cop, you don't have to worry about being shot. You don't have to worry that something bad's going to happen, and your wife has to film it just to make sure that something bad doesn't happen. So that's where that white privilege and I mean, it's changing as far as, hopefully. I say it's changing. I mean, usually after, and they're not riots, right? These are protests. They're happening for a reason. And usually there's almost always there's change that follows,
Yeah. Well, you'd hope. I mean, this administration, you never know, but
well, come November, hopefully.
It's I'm saddened for I don't watch the news, so I actually don't really. I go through Twitter, and that's where I'll get my information from.
It was on fire last night.
Oh man, and I feel blessed. I feel privileged, and I just hope somehow, some way, this world can change, and maybe it can't, and maybe it's always been this way. And like you said, social media has just exposed it for what it is. But we got to figure this out, right? Like, people got to figure this out. Everyone's got to look within first. You got to start small. You got to look at yourself. How can I change? And then it's got to, how can we change our family? And then their family goes, how can we change the community we're in? And the community hopefully goes, how can we, change the bigger one? And that's really what I believe. It's got because I don't think it's going to start from the powers that be. They've been protecting something for a long time. I don't know what it is, but
but I mean, to your point too, you heal yourself. You're able to heal your family. Like my family has seen the dramatic change in me, and a lot of them are on the same medicine I'm on now. And then you can heal your community, and then that's really where that's the special sauce. That's the thing that I wasn't doing before. Like, I wasn't able to show it. I was still trying to advocate my best and do my best, but people couldn't actually see it. Now they can see it, and so now you have people that are willing, to take this medicine because they've seen such a dramatic shift in me in 365 days.
That's unbelievable, man. I know it's like we've been doing this for a while, and you're sitting in your truck, but this is like your story. And I've followed you for a long time in the NHL, being a hockey nut, and you were a hockey nut.
Oh yeah, psycho.
But I mean, and that's what guys like me loved. That's the truth.
Yeah.
And I go back and forth with many things. I hope there's and I use that word compromise. Like, there has to be compromise. With I mean, I'm talking to just like with this drug industry, with government versus what's going on, right? Like, if we don't find compromise and connectivity, and it's so fucked, man, because when COVID first came, for a moment there, we were all kind of like, you know what, we're all the same, we're all at risk, when really people were really concerned, right? We all felt there were vulnerabilities, and we all kind of had to connect differently through these Zoom type of weird, I worry for my children. Is this the way they think communication is supposed to be, and not hug their grandmother and stuff? Like, I kind of worry about that stuff. But
Right.
You know, for a second there, we actually, and Madonna said it, and, you know, and I don't know if she was well received or not, but it was like the great equalizer. And I sort of was thinking very similar terms. And clearly there's no equalizing right now, but we have to figure out a way. And this psilocybin, the more we learn about it, that to me, honest to goodness, is the great equalizer from my personal experience. And that's why I'm so pushing hard for it with working capital now. And I don't want to sound like a capitalist corporate greedy pig, because I'm not a finance guy. I barely understand the stuff. I shouldn't say that as a CEO, but it has to be proven out, because there's too much anecdotal research and too many people who talk about this way too positively for it not to take everyone's brain into some sort of curious path right now to go, we need to make sure we learn more, all of us together.
Yeah. I mean, you know, to your point, I think with that virus that ripped through, everybody was home, everybody was isolated. And what happens when you're isolated? You're with your own mind. What happens when you take psilocybin? You're with your own mind. And that's where you have to be if you want to learn about like your triggers and what makes you happy, what makes you sad, what's affecting your life, how to change it. That's like that is the great equalizer. It's like, because normally what do? Oh, I feel bad, I'll turn on sports. There ain't no sports, buddy. What are you gonna do? Oh, you're sad now, right? You know, and if you're an athlete, you know, I've said it a bunch of times, if you're a hockey player, you know, this is what retirement looks like, you know. And if you're fucked up right now, right, and you don't know what to do, start doing some research on yourself. Start figuring out what makes you happy away from that sport, you know. And really anybody, you know, start figuring out, like, you know, stop using these phones as distractions and picking them up in conversations when we're bored, or you know, there's a lot of external stimuli, and what that virus did was, like, you know, just shut everything down, man. And you had to create a relationship with yourself. And I think that, you know, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be suffering, and there are suffering right now from depression and from anxiety. And, you know, I just implore them to understand what depression is and what anxiety is. You know, it's not feeling anxious. That's not what anxiety is, you know, and it's not feeling sad. That's not what depression is. You feel upset that you can't go see your friends. Well, then feel upset, because that's a normal fucking emotion, you know? So I think we really need to start understanding ourselves, so that we could start understanding these terms that are being fed to us and spoon fed to us. And then we can start understanding, you know, and recognizing signs and symptoms that are affecting our quality of life, and be like, no, I'm going to go take some medicine, or I'm going to change my diet because I ate like shit last night, and that's probably why I feel bad this morning. Oh, I didn't hydrate this morning. You know, like, there's little things that you do during your day to assess how you feel. But again, man, it always goes back to you. And when you go to bed next to your wife, you go to bed alone. So do I. And so does my wife. We all go to bed with our own thoughts. So why not try to, like, create that strong relationship with ourselves and create that confidence? And to your point, man, that's what this medicine can help us do. It doesn't do it automatically. It's not a magic pill, but it can definitely help us get there, for sure.
I'm really looking forward to the science backing all this stuff up. And you know, you said also about, and again, to your point, learning about yourself, but it's a really great place to be when it's like, you know, you hear this word authenticity. He's authentic, or she's, you know, genuine. When you can feel that, you know, at least, you know, you don't always feel it. People front, people, you know, you change a little bit depending on the, you know, you're a chameleon at times to your environment, but when you at least feel you're being a way that's natural to you, that's what happiness is. And
yeah, man.
And then when you feel like you got nothing to lose by it, especially, that's amazing. Like, you know, whatever.
No shame, no guilt, no, you know, no backtracking, no anything. You're just speaking your truth, so you don't have to worry about, oh, wait a minute, I lied last week about that one thing. I got to keep that lie up, and it just gets exhausting, you know. And I think we do that in certain situations because we want to impress people, because we don't have the confidence to just speak our truth. And, you know, hopefully people can just start, you know, regaining that confidence and just say what they fucking mean, you know, and it'll make them a lot happier for sure. Even if people don't like it, you know, if they don't like it, then they're not supposed to be in your life.
Well, listen, man, thank you, Daniel Carcillo. Dan, you, what's great about you, and if you don't follow Dan for some reason, Dan, where can people follow you right now? What are the handles? What's everything?
Yeah, so it's Carbon Boom 13 on Twitter, and then it's Daniel Carcillo 13 on Instagram, Daniel Carcillo on LinkedIn. I have on Instagram, DC Journey, the Daniel Carcillo Journey podcast, launching Made Plant Health. It'll be both on Twitter and Instagram, and LinkedIn as well. And then Chapter 5 Foundation, 501c3 that helps athletes transition into life after the game.
Amazing. And follow Dan, and the reason why especially is you've been so open about your own demons, but also your own sort of changes and you know, how you were in the past. You haven't ran for, you know, I think you put it in even like the demons that were with you, the things you did in the past that you're not proud of, but you've evolved from that. And I think that's the coolest type of person that you want to follow these days, not just, you know, pretending that they're perfect, showing that they weren't, but saying I'm trying to get better too. And you've done that. And you did that with your, you know, I saw with your Bisonet beef and all this kind of stuff. And you were just like, listen, I was this dick, but you know, it doesn't mean I'm a dick. It means like, I want to change because of that. And that's what resonates, because everyone's been a dick at some point in their life. That's what growing up is. You know, we're not perfect.
Yeah. No way. No. People are perfect, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah. So yeah, man, it's been an interesting life. You know, I changed my life around while I was in my career at 25. I got my first taste of spirituality, and then I went to the Stanley Cup Finals 4 times in my last 5 years with you know, with 3 different teams. So, you know, if you live the right way, your luck is a sure thing. You know, I saw you wearing that OVO hat. That's a Drake song lyric, and yeah, man, I truly believe that. And so that's why I'm just really happy that that the science leading the way, and that this medicine is available to people like me, and hopefully, you know, if people are interested in it, then they can. I always say, like, do your own research. Like, don't listen to me, man. You know, like, go do your own research, and then maybe, you know, make an educated decision of if it could help you or not.
Yeah. What a great chat. I will, you know, I will do this again. And, you know, I think I want to work, you know, I want to figure out more of this stuff, because you're such a good spokesman and so in touch with everything and your emotions. And let's be honest, you know, you're a Stanley Cup winner, and that helps drive a message. Like, I'm sorry to say, like, that's a great extra bit of going, wow, this is where he was and this is where he is. And this is where he is, saying that he's happier. People want to learn from that, because the peak of your happiness, I think people would only assume, would have been that day you were hoisting a cup, and it clearly that's not the case. And I think then people can take their peak moments and go, well, that doesn't have to be my peak happiness.
Yeah, that's you know, when I raised those cups, especially in 15, I was spiritually, mentally, physically just dead inside, man, drained, you know, and I just had to find out, you know, or to crawl back to that person that I knew who I was before all that, before that life, you know, kind of got a hold of me. But yeah, man, it's you know, it's positive. It's all positive now, because you're just learning from it and then trying to help peeps. So yeah, man, I appreciate the conversation and you inviting me on.
Thanks, man. Well, listen, it's the first episode of this psychedelic podcast, and thanks to High Times for, you know, they're going to help pump it out for us, which is great, because they have an amazing reach, and it's so neat. It just happened to fall on the year anniversary of that Hero, so really incredible timing. And you know, hopefully it does make change, and hopefully there's someone out there listening, and I'm sure they'll reach out to you thanking you, because I can say, you know, and I can't back this up medically, but I can tell you that someone's going to listen to this and it will help them. And that's important.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully, man. Hopefully if it helps one person, then we've done our job.
Thanks, Dan. That's great. I hope to just, you know, hang out. So I want to come to the farm. I want to see what you're growing.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
2,000 tomorrow, which I think we'll be able to do quite easily. And then, yeah, the mushroom grow, all the drawings just came back. So, yeah, really exciting stuff, man, you know. And then, you know, that's the thing about, like, decrim, you know, you get it decrimmed and then, or decriminalized, and then you have this already medicinal mushroom grow, and then you just fucking turn it on, man. Like, because it's funny, all these companies are going to Jamaica. You don't need to go to fucking Jamaica to grow psilocybin, you know? Like, so, yeah.
Well, I want to learn more about that, and I'll reach out, you know, away from this to pick your brain on, because you should listen. You should figure out how you can work with someone, because you'll make a difference, you know, and that's important.
Yeah, there's Cybin. Have you heard of them?
Yep. Yeah, I have heard of Simon.
Yeah, those guys have been.
I'm going to be hounding you now. I'm going to be hounding you personally.
Back and forth with them. Yeah, man. Let's if you're doing, and then we can always have a discussion. Like, literally, man. I've got fucking. There's been, like, I think, like, at least 90% of the company. I'm not adverse to, like, working with people. So it's just I just got to find the right fit. You know? Without a doubt.
Well, listen.
Yeah, but I'd love to learn more. So let's set up another call, like, away from the radio and stuff. And I'd love to learn more about your company.
For sure, man. I don't mean to be pimping that out right now, but this has been great, and it's really neat, because I don't.
No, it's all good.
Yeah, like I'm normally a radio guy, but we just sat and had a kind of a cool, candid chat. I don't, like, you know, it was more planned, the other one, and this is just, I think, how podcasts go. So thanks to High Times, and we can't wait for everyone to hear, and I think we'll put it up on video too and see this. So thank you.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, I apologize for, like, you know, the truck, the headphones, the darkness, the kids.
No,
and then, yeah, man, in the future, yeah, I'd love to have you on my podcast too, and we can kind of do a similar thing.
Please, I would love to be there. Thank you so much.
Okay, buddy.
Right.
I'll talk to you soon, all right, brother?
Okay, thank you again. Dan Carcillo.
Okay, see you, Todd.
Yeah, I'm doing, like, the formatic stuff now, but
yeah,
I don't know.
I know. I catch myself doing that too, man. Sometimes I'm, like, introducing somebody, and they're, like, right there. I'm like, what are you doing? Just talk to them.
Just talk to them. I'm out. I'm just out. I'm out. I gotta go. I'm
Okay, see you, buddy.
Thanks. Bye.